إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله ونبيه وصفيه وحبيبه بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حتى أتاه اليقين وتركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في كل وقت وحين وعلى آله الأطهار وعلى أصحابه الأخيار وعلى أتباعه الأبرار إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. اتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وبعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله إن خير الهدي هدي سيدنا ومولانا رسول الله إن شر الأمور لمحدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. One of the things that the ulama of the past did is they looked at the patterns of Islamic law and all of the sciences, and they came up with rules and principles, qawa'id. It's very common when you study fiqh specifically, is that you learn these principles because underneath each principle you derive dozens and dozens of points of law. So it becomes an easier way to study. So, for example, we all know the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ إِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى فمن كان هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كان هجرته إلى الدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. This is the first hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, and it's found in the 40 collection of Imam. Now we know this hadith. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. All actions are based on intention. So this actually is a principle in Islamic law. And Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, radiallahu anhu, he said that this concept of having an intention before an action is involved in over 70 chapters of fiqh. So then Imam al-Suyuti, rahimahullah, he'll take this and he'll enumerate all of the 70. So, the point is to teach the student, if you learn the principles, then you'll be able to derive the law from it. However, or also, what's interesting about these principles is that they're not just principles of law, they're just not mechanics of the legal thinking, but they're actually principles of life. Which is why Imam al-Bukhari put that hadith as the first hadith of his Sahih collection. One of those principles is من استعجل الشيء قبل أوانه حرم أو عوقب بحرمانه. من استعجل الشيء قبل أوانه عوقب بحرمانه. If you hasten to achieve something before its due time, your punishment will be that you will not receive it. This is actually a point of law. It's very much active in the section of buyu'a, buying and selling and transactions, in the wiratha, in the section of inheritance and all of that kind of stuff. But this is a principle of life. So much so that the ulama of tasawwuf, the ulama of the spiritual sciences, this is one of the principles that they teach us. And they teach us this to remind us of the importance of being patient. Everybody, they want the result right now. I want to have all of this knowledge, and I want to memorize the Quran and all of its recitations, and I want to memorize all of the fiqh and the hadith. I want to do it right now. So the ulama, they remind you, if you hasten to it, you won't get it. That this is something that requires patience and perseverance. It requires a lot of hard work. And then, inshallah, on the way, your fath will come, your opening will come. If you ask anybody, for example, who's memorized the Quran, they'll tell you, it wasn't always easy. Some days were easy and some days weren't. And then, but the persistence, you keep going and you keep going. And then, alhamdulillah, your mind becomes more malleable, it retains more, and then boom, the floodgates open. So the ulama have this principle in law, but it's also a principle in life. Now, the point of the khutbah is not to teach you Islamic law. We can do that sometime, else. But I want to talk about this principle as it impacts our life. I was thinking about this morning because I think a lot of people, a lot of Muslims, that is, in this country, are very anxious with everything that is happening around us. Whether it's the passing of Justice Ginsburg, or whether it's the racial inequality and injustice that we see around the country, or whether it's the fact that we are just 1 month, a little bit over 1 month away from a presidential election. Now, I'm old enough to remember being told the same things that we are hearing today. I'm old enough, not that old, but I'm old enough to remember that this is the most challenging time, that this is the most difficult time, that this is the most stressful time, that this is unprecedented, that this has never happened before, that this is the election to end all elections, that we are on the cusp of civil war, that we are on the cusp of the republic. I've heard all of these type of things before. So when I hear them again, I kind of scratch my head and I say, why is this different than all of the other times since I was a kid in school and in the media and around us? I heard almost the same thing, sometimes even verbatim. And then I was reminded, I was reading Surah Al-Muzammil this morning, and I was reminded by how over and over in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to reflect. أَفَلَا يَتَذَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَذَكَّرُونَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. All of these different constructs, Allah ta'ala asks us to reflect, and this is what I mentioned in the khutbah the last time we had the khutbah together. Allah ta'ala never asks us to hasten. And that's why we have this statement that comes from the Salaf, al-ajalatu min ash-shaytan, that haste, being hasty, trying to achieve something before its due time, is from Satan. It is from the whisperings of shaitan. It is from the machinations of Iblis and his minions to cause us to be anxious, to cause us to fear, to cause us to lose our balance and make hasty decisions. Allah Ta'ala never tells us in the Quran to stress out and worry. There's no verse that says that. But Allah Ta'ala tells us to think, and He asks us to think like we heard in the verses before the Jumu'ah. I don't think He's praying with us. He asks us to think about the heavens and the earth, the world around us. You can't think about the world around you if you're stuck in front of a screen all day long. The other day, like maybe 2 in the afternoon, and I went out to get the mail, and I felt like I was in a cave for a month, even though I was just online from the morning, with the kids and then my own work, and I had a class and this and that. But just a few hours of being on the screen, and the room that I work doesn't have any windows. So just going to get the mail, I felt like, oh my God, I could stay out here forever. It's just so beautiful, and the sun, and we are robbed of these things, partly because of the quarantine situation. There's no doubt about that, but also because of our own choosing. We have been forced into this mechanism, into this machine of anxiety, this machine of concern, this machine of worrying. And what we're doing as a community, and look, I know many of you might not like this khutbah, and I apologize, but I feel, someone's got to say it. We're just copying everybody else. we're acting just like everybody else. This is the end of the world. It's Armageddon. If the president wins again, or even if he doesn't win again, he's not going to concede power. Civil war, civil strife, the end of America. All of just this morning, the fall of America, and they've been saying that since I can remember. Nothing lasts forever. We know that. The Roman Empire collapsed in over 1,000 years. But everything will come to an end, even Islamic states, the Khilafah, the Ottoman Empire, the Mughals, all these things will come to an end. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. We know this. But what I'm finding amongst Muslim pundits and Muslim commentators and activists and unfortunately some imams is that they are taking on this speech. And let me tell you that this is a great, great danger. We are not the people to worry. We are not the people to lose faith. We are not the people even to put our trust in other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, all of you who are able should register and vote because it is your civic duty. And as a Muslim minority, it is obligatory on us to love our homeland and to care for it. But people like me, I don't vote for reasons that I've mentioned before. But even if people like me choose to vote, they must keep that private between themselves and the ballot, and not sway and not use the pulpit, the mimbar, the stage, the temple, the church, the mosque. They must not use that power to sway people in partisan politics, because that is not the job of the ulama, that is not the jobs of the imams, the priests, or the rabbis. I know many of my interfaith friends in this county would be horrified by this statement because they probably all assume that I'm a Biden supporter. And that is the problem. That people that are in positions of religious leadership should be beyond and above the partisan politics that can rip this country asunder, because our allegiance is to the republic. Our allegiance is to the nation and all the citizens of the nation, including the Republicans and the Democrats and the Libertarians and whoever knows if there's still Ralph Nader supporters out there or whoever's out there, even the Bernie supporter. It doesn't matter. You should be able to wear a MAGA hat at the mosque, even though we might ask you to take it off when you're praying. Just like you might have a Biden bumper sticker on your car. But as far as I'm concerned, you're my Muslim brother and sister. If you have a problem, my job is to help you as best as I can and advise you. But that's a tangent. And I wrote an article about that called God and Caesar. You can find it on my Medium page if you're interested, explaining why I have this position. But returning to the subject matter at hand, yes, if you can register to vote, you should vote. There's nothing haram with that. It is part of our civic obligation. However, what I'm saying is do not put your trust in that vote. Do not think that that vote is going to make it or break it. Because if you put your trust in those things will let you down. But Allah will never let you down. And His Prophet ﷺ will never let you down. One of the aphorisms of Sidi ibn Ata'illah, who was a very famous medieval Sufi of Egypt, he said, from the sign that you rely on your actions, من علامات الاعتماد على العمل, is that you lose hope when bad things happen. Meaning that you put your trust or you put your stock. Oh, look, I prayed. Look how that Dhuhr I prayed. I prayed all 5 prayers today. Today I even woke up before Fajr. MashaAllah, look at me, look at me. I fast every Ramadan. I give to the mosque. I'm always one of the top givers of the mosque. This is putting trust in your own actions. And then something bad, God forbid, happens in your life, and then you give up hope. You lose your grip on things. You might even lose some of your faith, God forbid. Sayyid ibn Ata'illah is saying in this aphorism that what's happening is you're not relying on Allah, you're relying on yourself. Even though the things you were relying on were acts of worship. Prayer, fasting, zakah, hajj, charity, sadaqah, all of these things. These are all good things. These are things that we do, we are obligated to do. We believe, inshallah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, we will be rewarded for them. Now, can you imagine what he would say if we extended this aphorism? What he would say about secular things? If you put your trust in your job or in your boss, or if you put your trust in, this system or that system, again, this is not saying not to engage in the system, but to engage in the system and to say, Ya Rabb, and to not forget the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate the injustice that we see around us. A new candidate from another party is not going to alleviate these problems. These problems are so deep. The problem of racism in this country, unfortunately, as we know, goes back from its inception and was never rectified with the Civil War. For the very fact that we still see Confederate monuments and flags in government offices and buildings and municipal centers and squares and whatnot. Still now, we have those around this country. Can you imagine that? You know what that's like for us? That's like if we had a monument outside of the mosque for the Khawarij, for the people that killed Imam Ali, alayhi salam, for the people that rebelled against the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We don't have that. Do we have a monument outside of Mecca or outside of Medina or outside of the Haram in Jerusalem to the Khawarij? No, what we have is we have the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Al-Khawariju kilabun nar, that the Khawarij are the dogs of the hellfire. They are the people that rebelled against the body politic. They are the people that sow discord and hate and racism and xenophobia, and they assassinated Babu Madinatul Ilm, Imam Ali radiallahu anhu wa alayhi salam. But in this country, they didn't do that. There are still military bases that have names of Confederate generals and Confederate champions. There's a big problem. Don't think that one candidate will change all of that. But rather, this country needs a great social awakening. And maybe, just maybe, we can help, even though we are extremely small in number. Maybe we can be a sort of conscious, maybe we can be a spark or small catalyst to a greater catalyst that could lead to actual change. But it's important that we remember our values. We should not get caught up in all of this and lose sight of Allah Ta'ala's power. لا يكون في الكون إلا ما يريد. They taught us nothing happens in this universe, big or small, except by the permission of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. If Allah decrees something, all He says is kun fayakun, be, and it is. So our job is to be right with Allah, right with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, to connect ourselves deeply in our tradition, and to help people around us stay calm. First and foremost, the Muslims that are losing it. Many Muslims, unfortunately, are just, I don't know what's happening. I really don't know. It's so strange to see Muslims in the name of Islam just lose it. Yes, it's tragic that Justice Ginsburg passed, but she was old and that was expected. And it's within the president's right to appoint a judge. That's his job. Now, people might not like that, but that's how this system is. This system is built on it's either me or you. It's either my party or your party. They wouldn't even let Ralph Nader debate with the Republicans and the Democrats when he actually had a chance to win a sizable portion of the electoral college. They wouldn't even debate. Both parties cast him out. That's how this system is. So don't think that one candidate all of a sudden is going to be like Sayyidina Abu Bakr or Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi and it's all over. Don't fall into that binary. We have to have, hikmah. And that comes back to what I said in the beginning, that we cannot hasten our judgments, we cannot hasten our anxiety, we cannot hasten how we talk about these things, but our job is to reflect, is just to take a step back and reflect, to unplug just for a minute and reflect and ask Allah Ta'ala to guide us and have an honest conversation in our community and see what's good for us, what's good for the country, how can we help. But just to lose it and assume that one person is evil and the other person is good, just because of statements and tweets and things like that. I mean, come on. This is not hikmah. This is not the hikmah of the Quran. وَمَنْ أُوتِيَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Allah says, whoever has been given wisdom has been given something enormous. There's no hikmah in that. But these are the things that when we look back, even maybe a month, a year from now, we'll regret saying this or holding this opinion or that. So yes, engage. Just to be clear, I'm not saying not to engage, but I'm talking about the internal disposition. We don't want to hasten and be hasty and be quick to judge and quick to move without contemplating and measuring our steps. Because as the principle I began with states, we will not receive what we are looking for. When you try to do something quickly, you do a bad job. Students that rush through their homework, or students that rush through this, or you rush through this project or that project, usually you don't do a good job on that because you rushed. Teacher says you need to slow down. You missed some details. You got to go over it again. This is the same thing. It's even still exists in our modern culture, this concept. So for us, we are equipped with a very rich tradition. We are equipped with a preserved tradition. We are equipped with a Quran that has been preserved tenfold over in its narrations and all of the tafsir, and with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ cataloged based on their strength and based on their commentary. We should not ignore the treasure that is in front of us to help guide us. And most importantly, we need to remember Allah in the equation. I know some people, I remember Allah, but this is real. We really need to do that and not just pay lip service. Allah Ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Hajj, He gives us the example of the person who worships Allah on the edge, ala harf. The person who worships Allah on the edge, when something good happens, they're the good Muslim. Alhamdulillah, Allah bless me. And then something bad happens, they give up. خَسِرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And they lose this world and the akhirah. We don't want to be the person whose faith is on the edge. We want to be the person whose faith is deep and connected. So as you filter the information that you are receiving, as you hopefully register to vote and go out to vote, and as you engage in conversations with your family or extended family or community or friends or whatnot, please remember the deeper meaning behind your statements and your assessment. And pray and ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to that which is beneficial for our community and for the country. This is the country that we inhabit. We live here. Our beloved are buried here. Our children are born here. This is our land too. And therefore we want for it what is good, but not at the expense of losing our values and losing our compass. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وقدوتنا وقرة أعيننا سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Just a quick message from us to you is that we, per guidelines that we are following, we will have to reduce the number of Jumu'ah attendees by a little bit, by 10, I believe. So what we're requesting is that if you've come one Jumu'ah, maybe you can skip the next one to leave room for other people and vice versa. So rather than coming every week, you can come every other week or something like that. We leave it up to you to implement this to your best ability, but I do know that it fills up fast and other people want to come. I'm seeing a lot of the same people that last time. I hope all of you weren't here last week with Tarek. So maybe we'll have like two camps. We'll have my camp and Tarek's camp or something like that. But the point is, we want to leave room. I know all of you are like the super pious people, mashallah, the first to register, and alhamdulillah, may Allah accept your. Actually, al-ajalatu min ash-shaytan illa fi khams. The statement is that the haste is from shaitan except in 5. And one of them is the prayer, right? So to be hayya ala al-salah, hayya ala al-falah. So there's an exception to every rule. Of course, in the Sharia, there's no exception to that exception. But please, on all seriousness, do try to consider other community members, inshallah, for their attendance as well. I hope that I did not, I hope that my message was clear. And again, to reiterate the importance of engaging, I'm talking about our mental and spiritual state as we do that, and to not lose our moral compass, inshallah. We ask Allah Ta'ala to guide us to that which is pleasing to Him and pleasing to the Prophet ﷺ. We ask Allah Ta'ala to protect us from all evils of this world and the hereafter. We ask Allah Ta'ala to have mercy and to bless our parents, and to have mercy and to bless our children. We ask Allah Ta'ala to give us barakah in our time and in our wealth and in our families. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to bless our center and to protect us from all types of harm and hatred. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to guide the nation in this time and during its election to that which is going to be in all of our best interest. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to lift us and lift those around us. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to make us people of the Quran and to make us people of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to continue to shower us with His divine love and mercy, and may we see the beauty of His signs and all of those things around us. We ask Allah Ta'ala to protect our children as they are in this very difficult time of online schooling, and to bless and to protect all of the teachers amongst us who have sacrificed so much to attend to our children. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to bless the board of this mosque and to all of those who have worked so hard to keep us going. May Allah Ta'ala continue to shower this community with His love and His mercy and His generosity. May we be a light for the other communities. May Allah Ta'ala always gather us in good times. May He ward off all evil from us, that which is seen and that which is unseen. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt. Allahumma tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif anna sharra ma qadayt. اللهم تقبل صالح أعمالنا واغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم انقلنا من دائرة سخطك إلى دائرة رضاك، وافتح علينا فتوح العارفين بك، واحشرنا تحت لواء نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يوم القيامة. اللهم اسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة ماء لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا، ثم دخلنا الجنة بغير حساب ولا سابقة عقاب ولا عتاب، ومتعنا بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم في جنات الخلد يا رحيم. اللهم ارحم حينا وميتنا وحاضرنا وغائبنا، وارفع أيدي الأمم عنا وأقمنا بالحق وأقم الحق بنا. آمين آمين آمين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى اللهم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.